Introduction to Trigonometry. Consider the triangle below. We know from Pythagoras' theorem that it's right-angled. So it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. We know that this satisfies Pythagoras' theorem and therefore it's right-angled. The longest side of a right-angled triangle is called the hypotenuse. So we'll label this one here as the hypotenuse. The other two sides are defined with respect to which of the two acute angles we name. So we have a right angle here and the other two angles are acute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this one A. With this as my named angle, this side is called the opposite. Note how it is opposite A. This one here is called the adjacent. Adjacent is a word that means near to or next to. And note how the A is here and the side we call the adjacent is next to the angle A. If on the other hand we call this one B, then of course this one is still the hypotenuse, but with respect to B, this side would be the opposite, and this one is next to B, so it's the adjacent. Let's just consider the angle A. So A is here, we know the longest side is the hypotenuse, the opposite is opposite A, the adjacent is next to A. The trigonometric ratios sine, cosine and tangent are defined as follows. The sine of A is the length of the opposite divided by the length of the hypotenuse. The length of the opposite we can see is 3, the length of the hypotenuse is 5, and therefore sine A is 3/5. Cos A is the length of the adjacent divided by the length of the hypotenuse. So that's 4/5. Tan A is the length of the opposite over the length of the adjacent. So that's 3/4. A mnemonic that can help you remember each of the ratios sine, cos and tan is SO, CAR, TOA. And you read this as sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent is opposite over adjacent. Now I just want to pause at this second and just say that quite often when I'm presenting trigonometry for the first time to students, they say, I don't get it, or I don't understand this. And I just want to make the point, there is nothing here to actually understand. What I'm presenting you with is a definition. It's just facts that you need to learn. Now let's consider the same triangle from the point of view of angle B. So angle B is up here. This is the adjacent, this is the opposite. Of course the hypotenuse is always the longest side. The sine of B is the length of the opposite over the length of the hypotenuse, but this time the opposite is 4. So it's 4/5. The cosine of B is the length of the adjacent over the length of the hypotenuse, but this time the adjacent is 3, so that's 3/5. And the tangent of B is the length of the opposite over the length of the adjacent, and so that's going to be 4/3.